I am Marianne from EFAB Art, and I need to tell you about the sting I can't forget. A dealer sold me a piece he called a school of work. Modest framing, modest sounding story. The price, though, was anything but modest. I paid it because I didn't know enough to push back. A year later, I understood exactly what had happened. Same quality, same regional tradition, available for a third of what I'd paid, in a studio an hour south of Naples that nobody in New York would ever think to visit. That's the gap, and it's the gap the gallery world runs on. Here's what most collectors never get told. Naples in the 17th century produced some of the most powerful Baroque painting in Europe. We're talking about a city that was, at the time, one of the largest and most prosperous in the Western world. The patronage was extraordinary. The ambition was extraordinary. And then Caravaggio arrived in 1606, on the run, broke, dangerous, and completely transformed what a generation of painters thought was possible. The violence of his light, the weight of his figures, the refusal to make suffering look clean. An entire school absorbed it, wrestled with it, built on it. Battistello Caracciolo, Giuseppe de Ribera, Artemisia Gentileschi, who settled in Naples and worked there for decades, Luca Giordano, Francesco Solimena, names that belong in the same conversation as anyone painting in Rome or Bologna, and names that are still systematically underpriced relative to that quality. Why? Because most of that work never left. It stayed in southern Italy, in family collections, in private estates, in small churches along the Amalfi Coast, in the back rooms of dealers around Sorrento and Positano, who have no particular reason to advertise to the international circuit. The global gallery system doesn't go there. The auction houses don't have deep relationships there. The articles in the major art press don't send their readers there. So the markup you pay in Rome or Miami or at a Manhattan preview has almost nothing to do with what's on the canvas. It has everything to do with how many hands the piece passed through, how many gallery leases those hands were servicing, and how far the work traveled from the place it was made. That is the structural fact the market runs on, and that is what I found myself standing inside of when I overpaid for that school of piece. I wasn't buying the painting, I was buying access, or what I thought was access. I was paying for someone else's relationship, someone else's network, someone else's story. And when I finally built my own relationships, when I started going to Positano and Sorrento myself, in person, and sitting with the people who actually hold this work, I realized the story I'd been sold was a convenience, not a truth. Let me be precise about what I mean when I say I go there myself. I'm not talking about attending the major fairs and then flying home with a catalog. I'm talking about showing up in the room with the family, with the private collector who inherited 3 generations of Southern Italian Baroque and has never once spoken to a dealer outside of Italy. Those conversations take time. They take patience. They take a fluency in what the work actually is, not what it costs somewhere else. You cannot replicate that with a digital subscription or a research assistant or a well-placed phone call. It is physical presence and sustained trust, and it produces access to pieces that simply do not surface anywhere a typical collector would look. The pricing differential, when you find work this way, is not marginal. It is not a 10 or 15% negotiation. I have seen works of genuine quality and documented provenance available in southern Italy for prices that would be considered almost offensively low in any major city market. The quality is not lower. The art historical significance is not lower. The only thing that is lower is the noise level. Nobody is bidding against you. Nobody is generating urgency. There is no press release. For a collector who has already felt that sting, who has already paid the gallery premium and then discovered the gap on the other side of it, this is not an abstract point. It is the single most valuable structural shift you can make in how you build a collection. Stop buying from the circuit that prices access into the work. Start building relationships below the circuit, in the places where the circuit hasn't landed yet. I am not going to pretend this is easy without the right guide. Building those relationships from scratch, from outside Italy, without the language and without the existing trust networks, takes years. That is honest.